Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very interesting statistic. Trump owns about an 86% success rate in battleground primary endorsements. About an 86% success rate and around a 77% success rate in endorsements in general. What does that tell you? What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? It tells you that you can have a ministry of information and about 73 million Americans will still disagree with whatever government agency happens to defend or bolster the ideas of the Washington Post or New York Times or Democratic Party. The reason that wonderful, morally superior, really highly educated liberal Democrats are so focused and they're so obsessed with dis or mis information, which the words themselves are the embodiment of what they claim to define. The reason they're so obsessed with information is because nobody trusts them. If you are a former Bernie Sanders supporter, you know they don't even have a fair primary. They cheated Bernie Sanders, and then they blamed another country. They can't even have a functioning contest in Iowa. Oh, you know what? After the 75th alignment and, the calculator wasn't working, we had to get an app, and it just happened to be created, this app, by former Clinton campaign officials. Gosh, it's just a coincidence. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz had to join Madam Secretary's campaign right after Bernie Sanders was railroaded. They don't even have their own primary that is functioning, okay? It's not fair and neutral. Nothing they say is accurate. Trump was never installed by the Kremlin. They continuously publish stories about Trump based on what current and former U.S. officials think, where they have to retract an endless number of stories. That used to never happen in American politics. There was a story about Bush, George W. Bush, where Dan Rather lost his job. Now, you did have 3 CNN journalists fired and all of that, but generally now, when there's a story about Trump that isn't true, there's a sheepish retraction like a day later. You've had young people sue the Washington Post. It's like journalism has become activism. So that's just one example. In the battle for information, you're going to have half the electorate with critical thinking skills saying, okay, well, if you're going to lie by omission, so CNN, the Democratic Party, they don't always overtly lie. They'll lie by omission. Or they'll focus on January, but the summer prior they won't talk about, with $1 to $2 billion in property damage and around 20 lives lost, according to Wikipedia. They'll lie by omission. They'll emphasize what's good for their political party, and they'll emphasize and focus like a laser on what's, terrible or harmful for Trump's political chances. Hit subscribe, by the way, to this channel. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. I told everybody this is taking place. We are heading towards a devastating stock market crash, 2008, too big to fail moment, and I predicted all of this last October, and we're seeing the beginning of it. It's already started, ladies and gentlemen. Skyrocketing inflation, energy prices through the roof, GDP contracting. We're heading into a recession with interest rates going up. I don't know when the last time we were heading into a recession with rising interest rates. That makes no sense. But this is the wonderful economy run by the adults in the room. Hit subscribe to this channel. We're almost at 200,000 subs. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. I'll have an important segment on the Durham Probe Special Counsel in a couple of hours. But if you have an 86% success rate in battleground primary endorsements, this is according to Morning Consult and Ballotpedia, and you have around a 77% success rate, and the Republicans are going to absolutely obliterate Democrats in the House and the Senate. So You're looking at endless investigations. Any absurd law that Democrats have passed, Republicans are going to try to undo. They're going to hopefully focus on economic growth, which I think they will, to get us out of the recession that the policies of mashed potato brains got us into. Okay? You look at what's taking place. Democrats love their policies. Okay, fossil fuels are at record highs, but they want to, fossil fuels are at record highs, but they want to save the planet. And Biden is flooding the country, or trying to, with strategic oil reserves. Okay. Does that make any sense if you want to save the planet? Would you have been better off with Donald Trump focusing on economic growth and not getting sued by 14 states in addition to oil and gas associations? What is the point of pontificating and preaching and giving sermons about protecting the planet when fossil fuels are at all-time highs? And you say, well, that's not his fault. It's a commodity. It is his fault when oil and gas associations are actually suing him. And 14 states are suing him. And within the lawsuits, if you read the lawsuits, it says these policies are causing prices to go higher than they normally would. Then there's the issue of ending the U.S. economy, which is another devastating decision made by absolute maniacs with the help of an apoplectic, hysterical, and always wrong media establishment and wonderful experts that are revered. It's interesting how these bureaucrats and experts are revered, but they're always, literally always wrong. They said we had to end the economy. Well, now if you shut off the economy like a light switch and then turn it back on, supply and demand projections are completely decimated. You've broken supply chains around the world. You can't just turn on and off the economy like a light switch. And so when Trump was saying, hey, we need to open back up, it's too soon. The Washington Post would say, oh, bureaucrats and experts say it's too soon. And they still obsessed over you-know-what. And they still are. It will never end. It will never end for the morally superior. It will never end. Trump worked with Russia. They're going to be obsessed with this. And everything that they touch turns to the fertilizer that's now 400% more expensive around the world. We're looking at a global GDP contraction. The World Bank said, globally, GDP will contract. Gee, what happened 2 years ago? Oh, yeah, that's right. All of these leading economies said we're going to end economic activity. We went from record low unemployment under Trump, around record lows, to 22 million people unemployed, and then they gave Andrew Cuomo an Emmy. I mean, you have to understand why half the electorate, 73 million Americans, basically half the electorate, I mean, that's with like 95% negative media coverage against Trump, still votes for President Trump or DeSantis. Okay, you would have to be an imbecile right now to say, I'm just going to vote Democrat. I mean, you have to be a complete ideologue. Okay, I am not. Like, there are people who perhaps don't like me. Oh, he used to be a Bernie Sanders supporter. He became a Trump supporter. It's like, no, I want a great economy. That's what Bernie Sanders in 2016 promised. Or at least, I want people to do well. I want record low unemployment. What is wrong with that? I want the Doha Agreement. I want the Abraham Accords. I want a president to step foot in North Korea and begin détente between North and South Korea. President Moon Jae-in of South Korea stated that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. These are good things. What is wrong with those things? Trump signed an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses. Trump allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities and made the funding permanent, which is a key issue, than any other president prior. And so he did great things, but nobody knows about any of these things. Why? Because it was just his mean tweets. He's mean. Well, they were mean to him. They tried to set him up and frame him and imprison everyone around him. Why? Because the Durham Probe Special Counsel is finding out he was set up and framed by Clinton and the DNC. By the way, I want a rematch. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump 2024. Please, God, make it happen. We're still stuck in 2016. We're in a matrix. But he has an 86% success rate in terms of battleground states. Battleground states love Trump. And the Midwest loves Trump in the Midwest. and also most other states. He actually has a positive favorability rating in most states. Okay, it's just that in New York and California and Oregon, places that are very blue, people really despise him and they let go of family. They disown family and friends. I can't be your friend anymore. I can't be your family member anymore. Well, why? You're voting for Trump. Who are you voting for? Mashed potato brains. He's so much better. We are now going into a recession, and Hunter is a very good person. His emails don't show anything bad. Pay-to-play schemes, obviously. And we're heading into a recession. Stock market crash imminent. Let's see. A geopolitical catastrophe in Europe. But, Biden's very good. At least he doesn't tweet. At least Trump isn't tweeting. When this too big to fail moment comes that I'm telling you about, and the economy collapses, and we have an even worse geopolitical crisis, at least Trump isn't tweeting. You have to understand something. Half the country sees what's going on. There are a lot of people who look at Trump and say, I don't like him. But then they'll repeat what he says. They'll agree with what he says. They know people who want a change. DeSantis is the perfect option if it's not Trump. I actually think, look, I love Trump. I want him to run again and win. But DeSantis could very well have an easier time just because he doesn't elicit the emotion, the visceral reaction from Democrats. So they'll stop at nothing to prevent Trump from getting back in the Oval Office. With DeSantis, it could be like a 2016 moment with Trump. Like, they might not take him seriously enough. DeSantis is very popular. In one recent poll, in one of the polls, in one aspect of the poll, he actually surpassed Trump. DeSantis is fantastic because the establishment right now, and the establishment it panders to the far left. They don't really care about the alleged value system of the far left. They pander to the far left. What really is taking place is that Democrats know they don't really have any core values. They don't stand for anything. Republicans or Trump Republicans are socially liberal. They really are. They don't really care what you do with your life unless you're trying to indoctrinate, impressionable young people. Other than that, they don't really care what you do with your life. And it's not like the old school Republicans that are the preaching and condemning type of politician. Those are Democrats now. That's why you have these pundits on CNN and MSNBC just, no longer there. Because with Democrats, when they preach and pontificate, they talk about your humanity. You're a bad human. That's why you get all of these, imbeciles. I saw this conservative journalist, and I went up to him, and I said, you're a bad human. It's like, so what? Who cares? A Democrat thinks that their thoughts of you are worthy of, praise, or, the way the Democratic voter thinks is that if they tell you how upset they are of you, they're opposing you. No, nobody cares. You can say that you don't like somebody. You can go up to somebody at a bar or restaurant. You better hope they're not the type of person who would react in a way that you don't expect. But you can tell somebody, some stranger, I don't like you. I don't like your ideas. You're a bad human. You have no right to tell anyone. If you voted for Biden with Hunter and with every failed foreign policy in the Lincoln Project, I vote against the Lincoln Project. If you are a liberal who retweets the Lincoln Project, your opinions are worth less than the fertilizer that's now 400% more expensive. You're a complete imbecile if you're a wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat who retweets the Lincoln Project, for God's sake. But again, these people, many of them are kind of into politics. Not really. We're never into politics. But then started reading the Washington Post and the New York Times. They're oh yeah, Trump is a real menace to society. This is democracy. Democracy entails not not letting people speak. And like, oh, Twitter is going to be a dystopian nightmare. It's already a dystopian nightmare. If you don't like somebody, it's going to be filled with negative emotion. That's all it is. Monsters are going to... You can go ahead and block people or report them to the police or sue them for statements that are false, that cause you financial harm. You can do those things. Guess what? The laws that predate Twitter, can you believe there are actually laws governing society that were created before Twitter? They will protect you. I went to a police station, okay, and filed a police report on a Twitter handle when I had Twitter. But I don't have it anymore. It's a dystopian nightmare still. But it's going to be, it's not going to be, hopefully it'll be a much better platform. Hopefully it won't be that a dystopian nightmare. Hopefully it'll be just nobody gets suspended for their views. We actually have free speech. Yeah, free speech comes with responsibility. You want to know what the responsibility is, wonderful Democrat? It's ensuring that your argument and your viewpoint is more compelling, more intriguing, and rooted in fact, and is actually correlated with the truth, to where you can defeat someone in an argument, where you can defeat someone in a debate, where you don't have to silence and bully and suppress and intimidate people and coerce people with the threat of suspension or getting banned. The responsibility, aside from abiding by laws that exist before Twitter guidelines, free speech comes with the responsibility of ensuring that your speech is logical, rational, and more compelling than the people you're opposing. Okay, these are the people who are leaving Twitter now are the same people who are like, we have to fight for democracy against the authoritarians. Like, oh no, Twitter changed their algorithm. I'm running for the hills. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Trump, 86% battleground. The reason is because the country knows in a lot of the things Trump says, at least in terms of whether it's, okay, half the country will believe or will understand Trump's vantage point. Those are two different things, but they'll either believe or understand his vantage point. Democrats can't stand anyone having that type of emotions, those types of emotions pertaining to Trump. Give me your thoughts below, and it'll never end. You have to actually defeat Trump with reason and logic. You can't lie by omission all the time, because then President Trump rightfully gives half the electorate the right rebuttal, which oftentimes is the right thing. Like, just look at the economy. If you voted for President Mashed Potato Brains right now, look at the economy and look at foreign policy, and you objectively ask yourself, is it better than with Trump? It's objectively worse. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to think that this world is better now or this country is better now with Mashed Potato Brains. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel.